right, it's time for a quick take. Free agent Buddy Hield will be playing with the Warriors next season after a sign-and-trade deal guaranteed for 2 years, $21 million, sources told Woj. Courtney, does this move the needle for Golden State at all?
They should feel very good about the replacement for Klay Thompson. It's not often that you can find a player who can shoot the three as well as Klay did. Well, their splash brother replacement is Buddy Hield. Now, does this move the needle for me as far as putting them in contender category? No, I still think that they are a big move away from doing just that. But I'll give the Warriors credit for what they've done throughout this offseason, especially this free agent period, to remake the middle of your rotation with Anthony Melton, so somebody who can take on that tough perimeter assignment while also spacing the floor. Kyle Anderson. I like what they've done around the edges, but to be considered any sort of dark horse fringe category contender, I think that they are still a little bit away.
All right, let's keep it in the association. After the Clippers announced Paul George's departure last weekend, our Adrian Wojnarowski broke the news Monday morning that PG has agreed to a $212 million 4-year contract with the Sixers. Of course, that means he'll be joining Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey in the city of brotherly love. Brian Windhorst isn't moved at all by the move. Take a listen.
This is the fourth time in about 7 years that Paul George has been a headliner of an off-season move. The previous three have led to what? And that's my point. I'm tired of sitting here the first week of July and declaring that a Paul George arrival changes the everything, because I believe that with the Clippers. Bottom line, I'm just going to wait back a little bit before I'm willing to just assume that this fit will mean the changing of the guard somewhere.
Brian Windhorst, always spitting facts. F-A-X. All right, we got our alliteration crew here for this NBA alliteration. What? F-A-X. Facts.
All right, just checking.
Carlin, I'm going to start with you. Do you think that the Sixers have the best big three in the association?
Yeah, yes, I do right now. I get Wendy's, let's call it Paul George fatigue, if you will, from the last few years. Completely understandable. But when I look and consider a big three, as we've traditionally come to know them here over the last 15 years, this one fits about as well as it can. Now, I have real injury concerns, and I know how much Paul George was available this year, but it was also a contract year. But when it comes to Embiid and Paul George, you can't look at the situation and not be worried about that. But think about the fit. Tyrese Maxey is a dynamic playmaking guard who could score at will. Embiid, we all understand when he's on the floor, is unguardable at center. And then you've got Paul George as a wing defender, two-way player who's a scorer. And I think that fits all the way around. I think that's absolutely a perfect fit. And like, am I going to compare that to what we have in Phoenix? I'm not going to do that.
I'm okay with where we are right now because of how we talk about the big three. And where Wendy's right about this is that look at the teams that just won and got to the highest level of the postseason. Knicks play team basketball. They don't have a big three because they don't need a big three. The Celtics, had 8 guys shoot over 100 3-pointers this year. Team basketball is still very much in vogue, despite the fact that we are still in a big three era, which I do think is kind of getting phased out by some teams. But I can't discount Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon. I mean, the Jokic and Murray pick and roll alone is lethal. And you think back to the year that they won the championship, those three played over 2,000 possessions together. And there's a reason why they were one of the best teams and the best team in the league that year, 2022-23 season, because of the contributions that they got with those guys. I mean, Paul George still to me is kind of this unknown, the Philadelphia 76ers, but the biggest unknown in all of that is Joel Embiid. We think he can stay healthy. We know they made this move to take advantage of him in his prime, and watching what Tyrese Maxey has become in this offense and also as a defender, all of those pieces should play out well for the 76ers to get past the conference semifinals for the first time ever. But we don't know if that's going to happen. I'm giving you mine based on what I've seen happen in the Western Conference, where now you've got multiple big threes. I mean, go take a look at a team like the Dallas Mavericks, bringing Klay in. I think you could put them into the conversation as well. Oklahoma City has one too. But The effective field goal percentage, the defensive rating, both of those metrics way on the up and up continuously every single season for this Denver Nuggets team with their big three. That's why I've got them at the top of my list.
I got to say, and you mentioned it, Courtney, first of all, I think we're moving past the big three era.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like, this is a little bit ancient. But I will say this. We got these questions last night, celebrating the 4th, and my initial answer was no chance. It's just no chance. Because I'm tired. I kind of agree with Wendy. I'm tired of doing this thing based on potential. What have you actually shown me? And so if we're going to boil it down to a team that has its best core unit, it has to be the Boston Celtics, who just won the championship and have an open runway in terms of potential. My issue with this group, and I hear you, Carlin, I'm actually curious to see the Maxey PG dynamic. We saw, and I was one of the people in December through probably the second week of January that was like, yo, the Clippers might do it. Like, Paul George was a part of that squad that was rolling, clicking on all
They're playing
cylinders.
great.
So Paul George can play, doesn't need the basketball in his hands. He can play alongside a terrific point guard in Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid obviously had it working this year. But I wonder, and we will see, Paul George is not just new. This roster essentially is new. And immediately my thought was the Harris thing a misfit and an individual aggressiveness mentality, or was it a system? You obviously don't make a move for Paul George, who is an upgrade from Tobias Harris, right? You obviously don't bring him to this to have him go stand in the corner and wait to knock down three. I can't give them best just yet because I'm not going to operate off of potential.
Okay, so first of all, right now, I'd rather not have a big three.
I got you. Let's call it a core. Let's call it a core.
Exactly. You know, that third player, I want to be a high-level role player like Drew Holiday. I want him to be that. If I'm looking at a big three here and I'm looking at the Sixers, they really didn't have a whole nother option this offseason where they could get markedly better than to do this. So is it rolling the dice a little bit? Sure, because they have 8 players under contract right now. Like, who else is going to be here? You know, I'm genuinely interested in how that's going to play out. When I think about those three, if we're talking about talent and the potential of fitting where they all play, that's great. Like, I look at what's going on in Phoenix and what they did last year, and that is Matt Ishbia just throwing it all against the wall. Get me Durant, get me Bradley Beal, just get me the best talent, and we'll make it work. No, you won't, dude. It's not going to work because they don't fit together.
Right.
And, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. There were times that team, even though finishing the 6th seed, looked disinterested in playing together last year. So when I'm trying to piece together a team that's trying to find a way to contend with the Celtics, this feels like it was their best option to do it, and it is a high level of talent.
They had to do something because the James Harden experiment failed in Philly. And how many more years are you going to have of Joel Embiid in his prime to take advantage of, knowing that you have to bring somebody else? And I know that you've got concerns about what they did with their roster in free agency, and I think about the depth. I know that that's not the sexiest thing to talk about, like bringing in Andre Drummond and Eric Gordon, but that's spelling Joel Embiid, giving him some minutes in doing that in the regular season so you have him healthy so this big three can reach its full potential in the postseason. What was the thing we were complaining about in the second round with them, too? It was the lack of bench contributions. They remade that part, so their big three, we won't have to have that conversation about the other pieces of that team failing the Philadelphia 76ers. Granted, it puts more pressure on what they have built here with Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, and with Paul George. I don't know if this big three, though, given the state of the Eastern Conference right now, given where the Boston Celtics are, then the New York Knicks, and then the Philadelphia 76ers, I don't think this big three is going to be realized or actualized this year alone. It's kind of like what we saw with the Phoenix Suns last year, thinking that there was going to be this like instant gratification, and there wasn't.
I think that's the point, Courtney. I'm totally with you. Like, literally, the only time it was at star of Paul George's caliber, because I think we could probably pick apart a Kristaps Porzingis, who was maybe the missing piece for Boston, if you want to argue.
Drew Holiday is part of their big three, and that's,
right? But
it's an interchangeable piece, I think, with the Boston Celtics.
Correct. And they had if you go Derek White, which we could argue a debate about, right? But of Paul George's caliber, in terms of being someone that is a part of the core unit that we absolutely rely on, the only time it's been Add Water Season 1 was in Toronto. It is hard to do. And now we talk about all of these other additions. Sure, a boosted bench, love that. Drummond in particular for Embiid having some opportunities to rest, fantastic. But it takes time, and I don't think, I'm with you, Courtney, the Sixers' dream of the actualization of what this deal is supposed to achieve, I just don't see it happening in year one. Now, if we get to May and they made it happen in year one, all praises, super commendable, all of that good stuff.